Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about one of the maybe lesser known Dragon Quest spin-offs, The Adventure of Dai. The Adventure of Dai was originally a manga that started back in 1989, which ran in Weekly Shonen Jump, along with a ton of other great manga like Dragon Ball and Slam Dunk. Much like many other popular manga, The Adventure of Dai got its own anime series back in 1991, and a new one that also retells its story, which started in 2020. The series, from what I've seen so far, does an excellent job of feeling like a Dragon Quest game's adventure in anime form. It stars Dai, a young hero raised by monsters, and his friends Pop, a mage who reminds me a lot of the Prince of Canik, and Mam, who starts off as a bizarre gun mage and eventually becomes a martial artist. Of course, they gain new party members on their adventure and learn new spells and abilities, and one of my favorite things is how after a big boss type character is defeated, they always end up getting new armor and weapons just like in a JRPG. With the manga and anime being so successful as to make Shonen Jump magazine's top 100 manga of all time list at the number 30 spot, of course the natural progression was to finally make a home console game for this anime based on a manga based on a video game. Personally, I don't know a whole lot about the upcoming Infinity Strash game other than the fact that it's an action RPG, and I'm not a huge action RPG guy. So I decided to team up with the biggest Adventure of Dai fan I could possibly find to ask a few questions, learn more about it, and maybe even convince us Dragon Quest fans who are on the fence to grab this bad boy when it releases worldwide across all modern consoles as well as Steam on September 28th.
Hey, my name is Leo, it's a pleasure to be here. So I make videos on Dragon Quest and JRPGs. My first Dragon Quest game was 11. I loved the game, but what really made me a huge fan of Dragon Quest was the 2020 anime remake for Dragon Quest Dai. Now at the time, the only reason why I watched this anime was because Geekdom 101 made videos saying, if you like Dragon Ball, which I did, watch Dai. I didn't obsessively fall in love immediately. It was around episode 30 during the Baron arc that this became my favorite anime. The characters, the world, I became infatuated with everything. And that of course led to me making several videos on Dai. As you can imagine, I'm very excited for the upcoming Infinity Strash.
I definitely get that old school Dragon Ball vibe from the anime as well. So Leo, what kind of gameplay can we expect from this game? It looks a bit like an arena fighter, similar to some of the newer Jump Force games. I noticed you talked about wishing there was a bit more exploration in this game in some of your videos, but what do you think we can expect overall from Infinity Strash?
So in terms of gameplay, I think we can expect something like Trials of Mana, a bright and colorful action RPG. The two look very similar. The developers have mentioned that this won't be an open world game like standard Dragon Quest games, but it will have something akin to levels or stages. So I do think we will miss out on the feeling of a lived-in environment. The areas will look stunning, no doubt, but it's probably going to be lacking in funny NPCs to talk to, etc. For me, though, the main draw for Infinity Strash will be its fast-paced action combat and its very endearing story. It's also not often that we get a Dragon Quest game that prioritizes action combat. The Dragon Quest Builders games and more recently Dragon Quest Treasures put that aspect in the back seat, so to say. I've actually recently discussed the different gameplay styles of Infinity Strash on my channel, and from what we've seen, some characters are great at taking damage, others have skills that shorten the cooldown of their other moves, high DPS essentially. All of this in combination with blocking, and you're seemingly also able to parry from gameplay I've watched too, leads me to believe that this will be the Dragon Quest game I'll be the most happy with in terms of action combat. While, like most Dragon Quest fans, I prefer turn-based gameplay, I firmly believe we need a spin-off title like this that embraces itself as an action RPG, if nothing else, to pull in a bigger audience for Dragon Quest.
It really does look like each character will play very different from one another, which makes me excited to play it and see for myself. I have heard that the game will be ending around the episode 40 mark of the series. Now, I've just gotten to that point in the anime myself, and there are some big battles on the horizon. How do you think the game will end or address these big threats with it potentially ending around episode 40 of the story? Will we get a showdown with Mistfern? Will we see Sovereign Rock Castle and its attack? Do you think maybe we'll be getting some DLC to tell the rest of the story, or possibly even a sequel if this game does well?
So for Tokyo Game Show, I think it was Tokyo Game Show 2022, if I believe correctly. They revealed it will cover up to episode 42 of the Dragon Quest Dai anime, so the story will be left at a cliffhanger around that spot, probably a cutoff after the Sovereign Rock Castle battle. As for DLC covering the rest of the story, I think it's somewhat likely. With Infinity Strash, they originally intended to cover more of the anime, but couldn't due to development issues. I remember when the game was first announced, we saw things like Madroa, which is well past episode 42, but they are only covering a portion of the anime because the devs wanted a polished game. The delays show it. Keep in mind, this was originally slated for a 2021 release. We got hit with a 2-year delay. If the game sells well, DLC definitely seems possible. It's not something I could say with absolute certainty, however.
Yeah, I agree. At this point, it's really hard to tell. One thing I really love about the anime is how it does come up with original spells and attacks, while still making them feel like they belong in the Dragon Quest series. The different Avant Strashes or Slashes feel right at home alongside Flame Slash, Dragon Slash, Metal Slash, and so on. In fact, I recently played the Dragon Quest Kenshin plug-and-play game, and they actually included Gigadane as one of the attacks in that game. I'd love to see some of these attacks and spells show up in mainline Dragon Quest games, like Overheal, a healing spell learned by clerics that can cause absolute destruction to enemies by overflowing their life source. Is this something you'd love to see as well? Do you think they'd be able to incorporate some of these attacks in something like Dragon Quest 12?
Yes, I would love to see spells from Dai in Dragon Quest 12. One I'd love to see, but doubt its appearance, is Levizoom. I think being able to fly around the world of Dragon Quest 12 would make traversal so fun, but while actual spells might not make the cut, I think one thing that is for certain is spells from Dai being referenced in Dragon Quest 12, because Dragon Quest 11 does this. For example, Fizzcracker is a reference to Madroa, so I definitely anticipate that. Giga Break from Dragon Quest Dai in particular is a move I fully expect to be referenced in Dragon Quest 12 because they have had a callback move to it every game since Dragon Quest 8. They'll probably give it a different title like Giga Gash or Giga Slash, etc. But calling forth lightning from the heavens and imbuing your sword with it will never not be cool, so I look forward to it.
Yeah, using the Lightning Strike attack in Dragon Quest Swords was always an absolute blast, so I stand by your statement. Levizoom would be a cool replacement for the flying mounts we've been getting since Dragon Quest 3, hopefully allowing more flexibility in where you can actually land. Thank you so much for your help with this video, Leo. I'm glad to have you here giving your expert info and opinions when it comes to all things Dai. Everyone be sure to send him some love by subscribing to his channel and check out some of his content as well.
Thank you for having me. You're actually the first YouTuber to ever collab with me, so I'm glad it was someone awesome who also loves Dragon Quest. It was a blast, and I'm very, very grateful. If possible, I'd love to do it again.
Well, I'm hoping to do it again too, man. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you gained a new appreciation for the adventure of Dai thanks to Leo and I. Take all this information and enthusiasm and use it to decide for yourself on if you should grab Infinity Strash at the end of September. Just remember there are some Dragon Quest 3 themed costumes you can unlock for the characters if you pre-order the digital deluxe edition. Have a good one, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.